Good morning, everyone. We're now in the month of Adar, and our rabbis teach us, Mishenichnas Adar, when the month of Adar enters, Marbim b'simcha, we must increase our happiness. And so I went onto Google and I typed in the key to happiness, and I got 81 million different articles on the key to happiness. So obviously I can't read all 81 million articles, but I glimpsed through some of them. And one of the features of happiness, according to all articles, is relationships. The greatest joy comes from loving, meaningful, deep relationships. But this week's Torah portion talks about a very unique kind of relationship, perhaps the most important relationship of all. The Torah tells us the commandment, Vasuli Migdash, you should build for me a sanctuary, a tabernacle, Vishachanti betocham, and I will dwell in your midst. God says, I want to dwell in the midst of the Jewish people. I want to have a personal relationship with each and every one of you. As our rabbis say, it doesn't say I will dwell in it, in the tabernacle. It says I will dwell in them, within each and every Jew. Betoch kol echad ve'echad, say the rabbis. God wants to have a personal relationship with us. And that's why when the Torah commands us to build the tabernacle, it says, Vasu li, you should build it for my sake. It shouldn't just be for grandiose honor and importance of recognition to say we have a beautiful synagogue. Yes, thank God Palm Beach Synagogue is a beautiful synagogue. But what is the purpose of building the beautiful synagogue? It's to invite God into our lives, into our souls, into our homes, to make a dwelling place for God. And the most important thing when we come to synagogue is to connect with God, to speak to God, to feel God's love and closeness to each and every one of us. And perhaps from all the relationships we have, that's the most important relationship, because if we know we're never alone, God is always with us, we always feel His warm, loving embrace, that will bring the greatest and the deepest joy and happiness to our lives. It's a story told about two sisters. One married a very wealthy man, and one married a man who struggled to make a living. And the sister who had to struggle to make a living was a little bit envious of her sister because she always had the most beautiful jewelry and fashionable clothing and lived in beautiful homes and expensive cars and nicest jewelry and took the most lavish vacations. And the two sisters were very close, and one day they were out for lunch and the rich sister starts crying. And her sister says, "What's the matter?" And she says, "My marriage. I have a terrible marriage. I'm in a lot of pain. I'm suffering." And the poor sister says, "I'm so sorry to hear that. I always had the impression that you had such a good life. Your husband took such good care of you. He gave you everything you want, bought you the most expensive gifts." And the wife said, "Yes, he does buy me everything I need materially, but he doesn't really love me. He doesn't really care about me. He doesn't really listen to me or hear me or consult with me or talk to me or respect my opinion." And the sister realized that externally everything looks so beautiful, but on the inside what matters most is the connection and the love with your husband or with your wife, which her sister sadly lacked. The same thing is when it comes to building a synagogue. Yes, the Torah says build a beautiful synagogue, gold, silver, copper, beautiful materials, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is Vasu li, make sure you're doing it for God. Don't just make beautiful objects in the synagogue. You could have a gorgeous synagogue, but the question is, are the people in the synagogue really connecting to God? Are they listening to God's words in the Torah? Are they trying to grow closer to God? Are they trying to be respectful of God in everything they do in their lives? And that is the key to happiness. Meaningful relationships with our loved ones, with our spouses, with our children, with our friends, but most of all, with God. Have a happy and a wonderful day.